Welcome everybody to Audio Act's presentation on Anthem's new range of MCA, MRX and AVM processors. I'm Paul McLean, I'm the National CI Manager looking after this particular brand. So we've got a short presentation today on the new range, bring you up to speed with everything, and let's take a look at it. Let's start with the timeline of the brand and the processors. It's over a decade now. Anthem has been delivered premium electronics for surround sound, starting here back in 2010 with the release of the MRX740. And then in 2013, we had the MRX710, a very popular Generation 3, 6 years ago and there now, MRX720. And now we're moving to the Generation 4 inside of the MRX740 and the 40 series of the processors. And great industrial design now, different looking machines. It's inspired from the MDX or the multi-room audio series of products and also the STR series. So when all of these are stacking up on top of each other, they all look aesthetically about the same. There is a 4RU optional rack mount kit available also with these models. Let's look at the upgrade paths from the previous model. You have the AVM60, which is now becoming the AVM70. Now, there wasn't a model before of the AVM90, and AVM90 is a new flagship model, and there's some more information on this one will come to hand over the next weeks and months. The other significant upgrades from the MRX520, which becomes the 540, the 720 becomes the 740, the 1120 becomes the 1140. Both of the models of the 540 and the 1140 will also be coming soon. More information from your rep on that. Let's look at now some key new features on these models. Now let's look at the first one here. There's a new display on the front, lots more information, a lot more high resolution, and it's easy to set up and provide all of the details from the front of the display. One of the big updates to this range is the new Web GUI setup interface. For those that are familiar with the MDX or multi-room audio, the layout and everything inside of this new graphical interface makes things so much simple to set up. New over-the-air updates also for those upgrading the firmware on the devices. Previously, no more thumb devices required anymore. You can simply do this one inside of the GUI, hit the button, it'll update. There's new streaming services, so they have an agnostic application to all of this normal streaming services available, from Spotify, Apple AirPlay. This is actually an Apple AirPlay 2 device, so it can be combined into multi-room with Apple AirPlay 2. Google Chromecast audio built on board. Roon is now supported as an endpoint for this one, and Bluetooth audio, which is Bluetooth 5. A great new upgrade is the next generation of ARX Genesis, or the room correction that's built into each and every Anthem unit. There's a new microphone, and there's also the ability to update the subwoofer phase and polarity, which is a feature that has trickled down from the STR series. Amplifier matrixing is also available on these units. So let's say if you had an 11-channel processor, 10 of those channels can be reassigned to use where you otherwise don't have power. Immersive audio support. We now support IMAX Enhanced DTS, DTS X Pro for the models that are above 11-channel output. So the high channel count is now supported. Thanks to how popular records are, Phono Stage has also been applied to the AVM series processors. And then if I get my little mug out of the way here, We also have an 8K upgrade ability with these units also, which is pretty amazing. So that's coming soon. More information about that, a few $100s. We'll announce that detail soon enough. So the Anthem family here, we have the first model 40 at $3,000, MRX740, $4,500, MRX1140, $6,000. So it's the 3 AVR receivers that we've got. And then there's 2 processors, the AVM70 and the AVM90, $5,500 and $11,000, as you can see there. There is complement amplifiers, which are kind of like the companions to these models also. Some of the models do have more processing than they do have amplification. When that's happening, you can add these other amplifiers into it. So you've got MDX8, MDX16, which shares the same amplification circuitry that the 740 and 1140 also have. The MCA power amplifiers have been updated. They are generation 2, and you'll see that they are aesthetically looking the same and going to complement the look when this is inside of a rack. Give my little mug away again, and the STR series, you can see now through the whole range, they're all looking practically the same. We still have the statement P2 and P5 amplifiers, so if you are chasing a lot more power, we can still add these into those systems which have demanding speakers and demanding SPL. We also have the M1 Ultra Class D mono power amplifier. So let's look at the competitors. Well, I think this slide is intentional because there's not many competitors. Okay, so let's look at the improved new GUI. Really, really simple to use. Use your sniffing tool, find the IP address of the device, put that one in, and you can go through all of the settings and have instant information at your hands. It's also very responsive to any device. So if you've got an iPad or iPhone and you're on site and you don't have a computer, you can actually use those devices also to start setting up and calibrating the unit. Or of course, you've got the front panel that's available. Anthem room correction is in its next stage. There's improved algorithms every time you're performing these. It sends it back to the mothership, and the mothership pushes out new updates for ARC and makes it much better. There's a new ARC microphone. You'll notice there's a new dot on the front of it there. So the dot wants you to face that one towards the front of the room when you're performing the calibrations. This is a more precise microphone. It's actually a MEMS microphone, microelectric mechanical system, and it does not have the serialized number down the bottom, so you won't have to input that one. Best of all, it's in every single kit and comes with a proper microphone stand. You don't need to perform any origami when you're performing your installations. Compatible with PC and Mac also. So the premium models that are in the range here, MRX1140, AVM70, the anticipated AVM90, they have the large toroidal transformer, which gives you all of the detail. Load monitoring is built on board, which is current monitoring, voltage monitoring, and all sorts to protect the circuitry inside. There's 32 768 DACs, very, very high quality DACs inside of what is a new DSP platform. Zone 2 is included with these particular AV receivers and preprocessors, and you've got the ability to upgrade the 8K HDMI board. These units are 15 channels plus, so they will benefit from the DTS:X Pro new codec. Now, the new flagship processor will have the ability for 4 subwoofers. It'll do 946, and that's configurable. Great DACs, great audio circuitries. There's going to be more information on this particular unit. One note down the bottom you can see here is eARC, or the ability for enhanced audio return channel. So for those that have an 8K TV and using a PlayStation 5 or similar, you can plug that one directly into the TV and have the immersive audio come directly into the unit. Now the AVM70, which has been shipping now, is a 15.2 pre-processor, has both RCA and XLR outputs going to power amplification, large toroidal power supply. A really cool feature is now the ability for 2 independent subwoofers, which is adjusting phase, polarity, and the distance inside of your arc calibration. So for those that are using more than one subwoofer, and there is a big trend towards that, this could be a unit for those that are trying to go down the separates path. We also have agnostic streaming on board, Roon, Spotify, AirPlay, and the preprocessors also have an moving magnet input. The AVM90 and 70s are the back panels that you can see here. We now have zone 2 HDMI output, so we can switch that one independently to another zone. Same deal with audio. There's pre-made drivers also. Shout out to Alan from Chow Mein. Thanks very much for providing those drivers for Anthem. IP drivers, RS232 connectivity also. And for other people that want to use infrared, you can certainly use infrared there too. Just requires an additional IR receiver, so you can put this inside a cabinetry. There is a rack mount kit available for this one, which is sold separately. And the CI features also include 3 12-volt trigger outputs, and they're adjustable inside of the Web GUI software, and we'll take a look at that one a little bit later on. MCA amplifiers have also been updated. These are powerful companion amplifiers. They're made in Canada, and more performance, more reliability. Of course, the front panel is aesthetically matching to the other range. So it's a great upgrade path for MRX and, of course, the AVM series, and rack mount kits for this as well. So the MCA series, previously there was a 225, a 325, and a 525, 2-channel, 3-channel, 5-channel, 225 watts, and at 4 ohm you've got 400 watts. Do take note of some of the other amplifiers that are on the market that aren't putting out as much power into 4 ohms. The MCA 325 is a very popular amplifier for those choosing to power up left, center, right. You can use this amplifier if you're using any of the MRX receivers where you want to get the power off the amplifier and repurpose that one with the amp matrixing ability. The 1140, I think this is going to be a very popular unit. You've got 11 channels powered. So we've got 5 of the 140 watt Class A Bs and 6 of the 60 Ultra Class D, which is very similar amplification that's also found in the MDX multi-room audio series. 5.2 processing with a total of a 9.2.6 via RCA outputs. Large toroidal inside of this unit, so the audio quality is outstanding. One of the critical features here is 2 independent subwoofer outputs, adjusting phase, polarity, and distance. And this feature is not in the 2 trickled down 740 and 540. There's amp matrixing on board with this one, so the center channel cannot be moved. So 10 of the 11 channels can be rerouted with amp matrixing technology built on board. Wireless streaming available on this receiver as well. 740 is still our 11-channel processor. We have 5 times 140 watts AB and 2 of the Ultra Class D 60 watt channels. So there is 11.2 processing channels. So we'll support a 7.2.4 home cinema. Amp matrixing with 6 of the 7 channels can be rerouted. And if you are looking to use all of the 11 channels, we suggest that you can run a MDX, or you can go up to the MCA power amplifiers to increase the immersive audio for this unit. 2 parallel subwoofer outputs. So inside of the setup for this particular unit, you'll only have 1 set of distances and 1 set of controls for the subwoofer. Also includes the agnostic streaming, Spotify, etc. Let's look at the back panels here. Great to note, we're still keeping the white back panels. So anything that's an output on the back of this, you'll see will have a white background. We do have Zone 2 matrix for HDMI if you want to put that into a master bedroom or into a deck. That's a great feature. Zone 2 audio outputs. Another feature of this one too, you'll see inside of the advanced training, is Zone 2 on demand. Zone 2 on demand is a functionality inside of this amplifier. If you are using Zone 2 and the main cinema has 7 channels, it will throw 2 channels, making the home cinema only 5 channels, into the deck, the master bedroom, and it'll reroute it back into the surround sound when you're not using Zone 2. Great feature. Pre-made drivers from available on the website. IP RS232, rear IR, rack mount kit, and 3 of the 12-volt triggers. The 540 has a bit of an update, this unit. It now has 7.2 processing. It's got 5 channels built on board. This time it has Atmos and DTS processing on board, and it also has wireless capability over the previous model. 2 parallel subwoofer outputs also. Also has the ability for the agnostic streaming. Amp matrixing is also coming soon via a firmware update, I believe, shortly. CI feature, you must note here, it shares most of the stuff there from the 740 and the 1140, but it does not have Zone 2 HDMI matrixing nor Zone 2 audio output on this particular model. For those system designers, if you require Zone 2, please use the 740 or the 1140. So network setup, we've got a RJ on the backside and the 2 antennas. It's worth noting also to include and install the antennas regardless if you are using them or not. It'll still help you with the functionality and how this unit works. So hardwired, use your favorite IP sniffer. You can use your Arc Genesis application, hover on the top, it'll tell you the IP address of the device. You can input that one. Set up for Apple AirPlay and also set up for Google. So CEC controls on this unit. This is just an example here of trying to use a system, an Apple TV, through a MRX to a projector. If you're enabling CEC control, consumer electronics control, you can turn this whole system on and off from just that one remote control. A great little feature, don't necessarily need to have a control system. Setting up your MRX or AVM, let's go step by step and check out what we want to do. Talk to your customer, look at the size of the room and put in a processor which is correct for the size of the room and how many channels that you want. Sometimes customers will want more channel count inside of the room, so determine that one and what is possible from the unit. Once you've done that one, obviously plug it in, update the firmware, assign an IP address, then you can get on to the settings and use the web GUI to set it up. It's going to be a lot faster. Enable your immersive speakers, so just turn those ones on. Amplifier matrixing, if you need to repurpose any of the power that's built into the AV receivers, the MRX, you can move that around the room. You will have to input the distances in manually, so make sure you got a tape measure or a laser measurement device and input those measurements. Those measurements also are now with a great tolerance of 5 centimeters. Previously, it was only 30 centimeters. A lot more accurate. When you're performing a first calibration, it's advisable to use the quick measure feature. And if you pull up the subwoofer and burst a tone through the room, you're able to level that one with the remaining part of the room. Otherwise, Arc Genesis is going to ask you to turn up or down your subwoofer. And then off we go. We're going to perform an Arc Genesis calibration. You can do this one in professional mode also. So if it's not on professional mode, go into the preferences, change your preferences from auto to professional and restart the software, and then you'll have a little bit more abilities to fine tune the Arc. So we'll fine tune, and once you've done your fine tuning, you can set up your CEC controls. Other important thing to note here is like wake on LAN, having that enabled will stop it from turning off, of course, or enabling you to turn it on. And there's also an ability inside of these units for HDMI pass-through. So there's 3 stages of power control inside of it that you must note. Trigger controls for 12 volt to turn on amplifiers, whatnot. We'll get to that one in another graphic. The default streaming zone for your agnostic streaming services, Roon, Spotify, etc. You can define that one. Make sure you set a maximum volume so you're not going to blow up the speakers inside of the room. You can change the on-screen display. If you've got a projector with a CinemaScope, you can move the on-screen display so that it's inside of the picture range for 2.40 or 16:9. Input setup. This is a really simple way to set up inputs here. We'll get into some of this detail. You can set if it's a HDMI video input or the audio input, which profile you want. So let's take a look at that one. This is the GUI that's available, and you can see we've got power controls, mute, volume, maximum volume, and the levels across also into the other section that you can see here. Zone 2 also has audio controls. General settings, which is device name, obviously putting in meters. The display there, you can see the power controls, mute controls, and CEC functionality. So on the MRX receivers, there is the ability to do amp matrixing or moving the power around, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail, plus 3D sound. So 3D sound is where you are allocating your immersive audio. This particular screen here that we're showing, the AVM70, and this has the ability for 6 channels on the roof. So height 1, height 2, and height 3, you can define if you've got an up-firing Dolby-enabled speaker or an in-ceiling speaker that's going to push sound straight out towards the listener on axis. You can set up your profiles here also, up to 4 profiles, and this particular model, AVM70, you can input how many subwoofers that you've got and set all of the distances and whatnot for those respective subwoofers. The crossovers will be set by Arc Genesis unless you're doing everything manual. This is where you'll have to input your distances for your speakers and a little button here to enable if you want to have front wide or not. So front wide, center, surround, these are all the channels for this particular model AVM70. Very simple here for inputs and defining them. You can see that HDMI 1 has to be there. You hit the little button on the side, it'll expand, and you can give the input a name. Video input, audio input, you can define a profile to this one. Maybe you might do 7.1.4 and a 2.0. You can define a 2.0 so that you can replicate maybe an Apple TV input and have that one as 7.1.4 or 2.1, just duplicating that one. Lip sync, input trim, so when the signal comes in a little bit hot, you can change that. Rumble filter is for the record players. Network control, IP status, Ethernet configuration, and your Wi-Fi configuration on your network page. There's hardware assist for Wi-Fi, your trigger number 1, trigger 2, and trigger 3. So it's 3 12-volt triggers on the back side of the unit. And a great feature here for those that are doing lots and lots of cookie cutter systems where you're having the same inputs, same type of systems. You can store this one onto your computer, upload it directly into this device, and it makes your installation a whole lot more of a breeze. There's firmware updates inside of here to do your firmware update also. Well, that concludes the general overview today. Thanks for tuning in. I've got some advanced training available also. Please get in contact with your representative, Corey, Kent, or Steve. We can arrange a bit more personalized training with some advanced stuff. So for more information, please contact myself, Paul M at audioactive.com.au for support. Also orders at sales@audioactive.com. Thanks for tuning in today. We do appreciate it, and we look forward to sharing this with you soon.